Welcome back to Outdoors with Larry Ray on 790 The Bet. Brought to you proudly by the Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency and Wally Hatchett's Comfort Food and Drinks at 6439 Summer Avenue.
Hi, folks. We're back with Outdoors with Larry Ray. I'm Tony Dolly, sitting in for Larry Ray today. And our next guest is someone you guys are very familiar with. He's been on the show a lot. In fact, he co-hosts the show a lot. It's Bill Cooksey from over in Jackson, Tennessee. And Bill, if many of you may not know this, but Bill is the Senior Sportsman's Outreach Coordinator for the I started to say National Wild Turkey Federation, my bad, for the National Wildlife Federation's Vanishing Paradise. And they do a ton of good work, and Bill he's traveling all over the country a lot of the times. He's testifying before state legislators and I think even in Washington, D.C., before Congress and committees. He's doing all kinds of stuff. And these folks do a lot of great work. And, Bill, you want to just kind of tell us what's going on these days with the Vanishing Paradise program?
Sure, Tony. I'm glad to. And I tell you what, it's a great time to talk because, we're finally we've had a lot of points during this whole COVID mess that we started to loosen up and do things again, and then all of a sudden everything gets shut down again. And we probably get shut down a lot more than some just because we are working with legislatures and that sort of thing. Well, suddenly offices wouldn't see it. It's just changed everything. But there's a lot going on right now. I mean, we're still doing our Mississippi River Delta work in Louisiana. I mean, they're still losing a football field of land every 100 minutes. Matter of fact, I'm trying to hire a sportsman outreach coordinator in Louisiana. So if there's anyone out there that wants to work with sportsmen in Louisiana and move south, give me a shout because we're hiring. But, that work goes on. In 2 weeks, I'll be next week in Louisiana for a meeting and then filming a segment or a show with the Bayou Wild people. At one of the
that's pretty cool
down there to talk about what these diversions can mean to sportsmen in an area. The next week, I will be down in South Florida helping film work on a video project to support Everglades restoration with sportsmen. And so we'll be meeting and talking to some of the famous fishermen and waterfowl hunters down there. And, that'll be online later this summer where people can learn really what's happening in South Florida because it is a mess. And not something that's talked about enough other than occasionally you see something about algae blooms on the coast. And there's a whole lot more wrong than that. So we're working on that. And this I'm really excited about. We're expanding our work all the way up the Mississippi River Valley. The whole watershed we're going to start working in. And I'm excited about that. Not always having to go to the coast when I have a meeting, or to D.C. So it's going to be fun to work closer to home on some of my home waters. I mean, the Mississippi River to a duck hunter from West Tennessee, Arkansas, or Mississippi, the Mississippi River is everything. So getting a chance to work there is really exciting for me.
So you really don't have any boundaries. You're not in any set zone or region, are you? You're just everywhere.
Yeah, I'm everywhere. I mean, I'm everywhere that we are set up to work. We work within specific deliverables and grants. It's a whole. If you're not in that world, I could talk for hours, and it would still be like, what are you talking about? But I have the whole Gulf Coast, the Everglades, and now the Mississippi River and all of the tributaries. That's in the very early stages. So we're trying to really identify places where people can make a difference on the river and the tributaries. And I have a lot of my own thoughts. I'm trying to keep them on the back burner now while we talk to other people and get their thoughts. But, we're at a time, sportsmen invented conservation. You know that. A lot of our listeners know that. We really did, especially in this country, and now that model has set up a lot of other places in the world, the North American model of wildlife conservation. But we're at a time when things in a lot of places the trend is bad. The habitat trend in the U.S. right now is horrible. I just was looking at one report that said, I believe, about 20% of turkey habitat in the U.S. is gone in the last 20 years. I mean,
wow,
it's just
20%?
insane the amount of habitat that's gone, and not just turkeys. It's blue-winged teal and big game out west, and we're breeding tract homes and monoculture agriculture. And I'm not talking that. Look, farmers have to make a living, and heaven knows we need the food, and people have to have a place to live. But some of what we're doing is kind of untenable at the current rate if we don't find better ways of doing it. And sportsmen need to lead. I mean, sportsmen led back in the Dust Bowl days and even before to get regulations passed and to get conservation funding established. So we need to lead there. We need to lead on studying these issues and finding ways to where farmers can go on making their living, but to make it maybe a little better for wildlife, how to protect certain really crucial areas and maybe push housing elsewhere. And another big thing that's coming up, and Tony, you may or may not be familiar with it, but it's potentially the biggest thing to happen to conservation since Pittman-Robertson, and that is the Recovering America's Wildlife Act. So
yes,
we're trying to help push that through Congress, and if this goes, it will make an unbelievable difference for the state agencies around the country. It basically, the idea is they're going to use federal money that is already there. This is not something, new money that they're going to have to raise with taxes. It's there. It's kind of difficult to just explain quickly, but the money's there. It's going to get sent back to the state agencies. They have to take care of non-game to a certain extent, and they certainly have to look out for endangered species, threatened species, and species of concern. And that's your and my dollars as sportsmen quite often that's being spent on non-game species. It has to be done. We get that. But this money will come back and help that. Now, here's the really cool part. When they fix a wetland or recovery a wetland to help shorebirds, it's going to help waterfowl. When they
yes,
redo nesting or upland habitat to help songbirds, it's going to help quail, turkey, deer, rabbits. Habitat that's good for non-game species is good for game species too. So if Recovering America's Wildlife Act actually makes it through, it's going to be a huge boon for all sportsmen, and that's another place we need to lead.
Boy, I tell you, sportsmen really need to take heed of this, and you're right, take the lead. We need to take the lead so badly on this, because if you look at the number of just the number of hunting and fishing licenses that are sold in any state, and if those people would turn into voters, the eligible age ones would turn into voters and actually vote for the things that we need them to, think of where we might be from a conservation and wildlife standpoint. What's a couple of successes that you guys have had in recent years that we would recognize, or something that would we could take a look at that it's been there and we just didn't realize you guys were involved in it?
We've been involved in just about everything on the Louisiana coast since Katrina. All of the coastal master plan that's passed and being implemented now, we were involved in getting that passed to begin with. And this is a huge program that's going to create diversions, do dredging projects, et cetera, and it's going to take decades and billions of dollars, but we were involved in getting that passed. And then every project in Louisiana, even though it's in the coastal master plan, as they come up, we have to still get them passed. In other words, they go through public comment, they go through all of this stuff, and we have to help educate people and get people to turn out and talk about it and get this stuff through the legislature in Louisiana. So that's been a big one. we just got I believe it was $1.3 billion for Everglades restoration. Now, it's not perfect, and it's certainly not in the long run going to be nearly enough, but it is a huge step in the right direction. But that was just okayed this year.
So folks want to know, if they want to read more about it or learn more about National Wildlife Federation's Vanishing Paradise programs, the things you're working on, Bill, where would they go to do that? Where can they find that?
A quick place is vanishingparadise.org. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and sign up for our newsletters, because when those come out, that gives you your hot button stuff real quick.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you, Bill, all the work you guys are doing. It's always good to hear about it. A lot of folks have probably never heard of you guys, and I think it's just great that the stuff that you guys are doing. Appreciate you helping me co-host the show today. And folks, we'll be back with more of Outdoors with Larry Ray in just a moment.